The icons on a camera will vary depending on the type of camera you own. An entry-level camera will have a dial with picture icons. On most mid to pro cameras, the icons are replaced by letters. The picture icons will vary depending on the camera manufacturer, but basically the symbols are very similar. So if you see an icon that looks like this, a rectangle, it means you're shooting in fully automatic mode. When you see a symbol that looks like this, a tight headshot, this icon means you're shooting in portrait mode. If you see an icon that looks like this, a mountain or a landscape, it means you're shooting in landscape mode. When you see an icon that looks like this, a tight shot of a flower, it means you're shooting in macro mode. When you see an icon that looks like this, a figure in action, a running man, this is the icon for sport photography or action photography. If you see an icon that looks like this with a star or there might be moons in the icon, it means night portrait mode. If you see an icon that looks like this, a flash symbol with a line through it, that's the symbol for no flash. Now let's talk about what the icons on mid to pro cameras mean. Now with the icons on the mid to pro level cameras, they will vary slightly depending on the brand of your camera. So I do recommend that you have a look at the camera manual and familiarize yourself with the particular brand of camera that you're working with. So let's have a look at the letter icons on my camera, which is the Canon 5D Mark III. The first setting I want to talk about is the letter A setting. So when I select this setting, letter A, it stands for fully automatic. So basically, when you choose to work in A mode, it means that you are allowing the camera to analyze the scene, pick the best white balance, choose your ISO, select the shutter speed and aperture based on a predetermined formula chosen by the camera manufacturer, or as I like to call all camera developers, Hans. Auto mode is going to be the first setting that you use when you get your DSLR camera. It's a great way to dip your feet in the water and test out photography and allow the camera to do all the thinking and heavy lifting for you so you can focus on getting your composition right and familiarizing yourself with the camera. When you're ready to be a bit more adventurous, you can try some of the other modes. The next mode I want to talk about is program mode, or P. When you're shooting in program mode, or P, the camera sets the aperture and shutter speed for you. You select the ISO and white balance. Program mode is not a great choice for serious photographers because you can't set the shutter speed to make sure the picture isn't blurry, or the aperture to control the depth of field. The next mode I want to talk about is Aperture Priority mode. It's A on most cameras, or the symbol AV on a Canon. Shooting in Aperture Priority mode is like riding a bike with training wheels still on. It's a really popular mode used by many enthusiast photographers and many pro photographers. You get to set the aperture, or the f-stop, and also the ISO. The camera will then select the shutter speed so your image is correctly exposed. Aperture Priority mode is a great mode to start with because it makes you feel like you have creative control over your images. The next mode is Shutter Priority mode. It's S on most cameras, or TV on Canon cameras. Shutter priority mode lets you choose the shutter speed you want to shoot in, and the camera chooses the correct aperture or f-stop to match the shutter speed so that you get the correct exposure. Now, at first, I looked at shutter priority as probably being the most useless of camera modes, like the egg tray in the fridge. When should you care about shutter speed? Well, some examples of that are if you are a sport photographer and you want to stop action. So you might be at a football match or a basketball match and you're shooting at very, very high shutter speeds and you just want to get the shot. You select the shutter speed that you want to shoot in to freeze the action, and the camera will choose the corresponding aperture or f-stop that you need to get a good exposure. It's also good if you want to choose a slower shutter speed to blur movement. So you choose the shutter speed that you want to shoot in, and the camera will choose the corresponding aperture or f-stop to create a correctly exposed image. The final mode I want to talk about is manual mode. The reason we're all here. When you select manual mode or M on your camera, you are in the driver's seat and control everything.